All right, we are live. Yeah, that dryness in Arizona.
Excellent, Smithers.
Yeah, so what are we talking about today on Packaging Today's show with Adam Peak and Avelio Matos? Our buddy Corey Connors is out today. He's actually in Japan.
Domino Regato, Mr. Robato.
That's right. He is big in Japan. All right, so today on Packaging Today's show, we're talking about tariffs on aluminum and what happens now in the packaging industry. So if you got questions, if you got answers, if you want to learn what happens to aluminum and why we have to shift away from aluminum or why we should embrace aluminum, stick around because I think it's going to be fun. All right. So, what's up, buddy?
Veli, we have a half an hour. Tell us everything we ever wanted to know about youth synchronized swimming in Arizona.
Well, you know, I spent the entire weekend in Tucson. I've got a daughter that has been synchronized swimming for the last 6 years, and it's pretty competitive. And if my kid's not in the water, I really don't give a shit.
Wasn't there an Olympic sport that was individual synchronized swimming for a while, which is like one person basically like water dancing?
Yeah, that's a thing. That's a thing.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's a solo, right? There's solos, there's duets, there's trios, there's combo routines, there's like team routines. It's pretty crazy.
We can't call it synchronized swimming if it's one person, right? It's just
that's why it's changed to artistic swimming. So you can't
artistic swimming. That's so much better. That's infinitely better. Hey, and speaking of infinite,
let's talk about aluminum. All right, so because aluminum is infinitely recyclable. So I posted this 5 days ago, this thing, and man, the people just loved it.
Right? For the listeners who may not be watching this live, you should be watching it live. But Avelio Matos, packaging design and engineering, follow for insider posts about packaging. Should canned brands raise prices or switch to plastic bottles? 25% tariffs on aluminum will impact packaging. And it is a photo of President Trump surrounded by liquid death cans signing a bill.
That's right.
Or an executive order, rather, not a bill. I don't think that's a bill. That would be a record time to pass a bill through the House and the Senate, get to the president's desk and sign it.
I mean, it could be like a credit card bill for like all the death he's got on his desk.
Good very well be.
Yeah, so what it was there was an article on aluminum tariffs and that Coke is already shifting away from aluminum into more plastic. Right? That's what's happening is like brands have to consider what are they going to do because the cost of aluminum is going up. Now, on this post asking what should brands do, people really
189 comments, everybody. You are very...
Yeah, it was crazy. But we had people kind of on both sides. And in both sides doesn't necessarily mean whether you agree with Trump, disagree with Trump, whatever. It's just focus on aluminum. And a lot of people were saying that why can't we just get our cans in the U.S.? So why can't we just get our cans in the U.S. and avoid these tariffs?
Well, let me tell you, Avelio, from my extensive research on ChatGPT. So I think the real issue is like there's a whole process to making an aluminum can, right? So forming an aluminum can absolutely happen. Printing an aluminum can absolutely happen here in the United States of America. And I didn't know if we were just like changing names back and forth. In the USA, we can totally do that. The issue is, where do we actually get the aluminum and how is aluminum made? And this is where I think it gets a little bit tricky. So if the goal is, hey, let's just take aluminum that's already in the US and continually recycle it and invest in a lot of aluminum recycling, any of the aluminum that is here in the US that is then stays in a circular economy will not have a tariff on it. So I hadn't actually really thought about that, but good, right? Like that we should be incentivized then to continue it in a weird way. It's almost like EPR, where where we're taxing the production of new aluminum cans, because it's the mineral is called bauxite, and the way that we make aluminum and the sheer amount of energy and heat that goes into it is pretty. It's not only it takes a lot of time, it takes a tremendous amount of energy.
Mhm.
It creates a lot of environmental waste. It's called red mud, I believe it is, that we have to then deal with, and it that creates a problem. So making aluminum, virgin aluminum, is not a great idea. Now, recycling aluminum is a great idea, and I think that's where the issue is do we have the infrastructure to ramp up our recycling efforts and recycle more aluminum? Or kind of like when Ryan Fox comes on and talks about corrugated box production,
Mhm.
are some of these recycling numbers a little bit inflated, where it's like 75% of aluminum ever made is still in production today? Well, how much of that is being recycled in the US? How much of it are we importing? And so on and so forth. I don't know what all those answers are, and I think that's where the tariff question becomes interesting. Is it could be good in one sense, but if brands are going, "Hey, our prices are going up by, 10-20% on aluminum cans," then it's a problem for the beverage industry.
All right. So before we kind of jump into some of this stuff, if there's a 25% tariff on aluminum, how does that impact the cost at the shelf? Right. We had somebody come in and tell us what it was, like 7x, basically.
Mhm. Yeah, so whatever the I've heard between 7 and 10
Mhm.
times whatever the increase is. So if we are to now, because there's also EPR on aluminum. Now, it's not a very high aluminum fee, but you still have to pay an aluminum.
We're just
There's
keeping it strictly to a 25% tariff, right? When people
Okay,
go,
yeah,
"Oh,
so
I'm paying 50 cents for a soda because I'm stuck in 1980." So it's gonna be, 60 cents or 65 cents.
yeah, I mean, yeah, so it's 7 times whatever the, the increase is per
Mhm.
can. Um, and so it may be maybe it's 10 cents per can, right? So a 12 pack goes up a buck 20, and I don't know how much a 12 pack of soda is, because I'm literally not a consumer. I don't drink soda very often, if ever. So I haven't bought a 12 pack of soda in a very, very long time. But let's say it goes up by a dollar 20,
Yep.
and that's across the board. Is that gonna be enough for consumers to then go, "Well, I'm already not getting as much as I do in maybe a 2 liter, and so I'm just gonna go buy more plastic 2 liters." I think Corey and I did talk about this a little bit, last week, but that's sort of the question that we don't know in our industry is, what is the impact on these price increases? Because we manufacture the little plastic, I don't even know what they're preforms. We
Mhm.
make these here in the US. They're very inexpensive to make. We can get the PET here in the US. We can buy it PCR here. We can have an entire economy based
Around
upon
that.
plastic in the United States if we really wanted to, and we wouldn't have to rely on, it's mostly, I think it's from West Africa and China where we get, the where we mine aluminum. So we could do it, and
In
maybe
Jamaica.
that's what's gonna happen.
Yeah. So the question is, like, do we shift away from aluminum, and go into plastic? But again, a lot of people were kind of commenting, well, why can't we just make aluminum here in the US? Right? It's like, we put these tariffs on to stop all the imports. Let's just make aluminum here in the US. And I think the one piece that people are missing is that US does not produce a large amount of aluminum, not because we don't have the technology, we just don't have minerals.
Correct. So, again, according to, ChatGPT, which is where I had to go get this information, it would be great, by the way. We would love to have somebody who is an aluminum expert chime in. Maybe we could even pull you into the show if we could figure it out. Because we're just going off of, at least I am. Avelio knows everything because Avelio is always right. But we have to go find bauxite. That's done in open pit mining. So this isn't something you drill down into and pull it up like maybe with fossil fuels. This is less than 20 meters deep, so that there's a lot of land that is needed. Most of it comes from, let's see, Australia is around 30%, West Africa 23%, China 16%, Brazil 9, India 6, Indonesia 4. Other producers are Jamaica, Russia, Vietnam, and Malaysia. What is missing from that is the United States of America. We, for whatever reason, either don't have access to it, or, as some people commented on your post, we have regulated our way out of being able to produce it. But maybe that's for good reason.
No,
Go
no,
ahead.
no. We actually don't have, even if we get rid of all regulations,
We don't have the bauxite.
we don't have the bauxite.
Yeah. So that makes sense. So then we can't actually mine aluminum here in the US. I know that we think like we can do whatever we want because we're Americans. Well, you're limited by natural resources in this particular instance. And by the way, I mean, when I started reading through like how this stuff is made, like, there's a step one. The aluminum hydroxide is heated in rotary kilns at 1,832 degrees Fahrenheit. It removes the water, it converts it into a pure white powder. Then it goes in molten cryolite at 1,700 to 1,900 degrees Fahrenheit.
Mhm.
I mean, this is pretty crazy what happens.
Tremendous amount of energy.
Yeah.
Hey, Andrew, how's it going? So, we'd love to have somebody from Novelis, from Ball, from any of these companies that have aluminum, that use aluminum, at large scale. I've reached out to a handful of them. None of them are able to speak on behalf of their company or on behalf of themselves.
Yeah.
But if you know someone,
we're not talking, by the way, we're not talking here about, can we, like I said at the very beginning, we can obviously make cans.
Yeah.
But all of the aluminum is imported.
Yeah,
we know this.
Or the recycled stuff.
Or it's recycled, right? But
yeah.
I mean, I would be curious how much of our aluminum, how much of a circular economy do we really have within aluminum here in the US? Like, what percentage should we ask? Well, let's ask ChatGPT. What should I ask it here? I'm gonna live research this. How did I even get through school
without ChatGPT?
It's crazy.
Yeah. Right.
What percentage of aluminum in the US is
from
recycling?
Okay. But here's the other thing is, I know we're in packaging, so we're thinking aluminum and aluminum cans. Aluminum can production is not like the majority of where the aluminum goes. We've got
auto production,
infrastructure, auto, airplane, electrical, electronics. Like, it's used by so many different areas of our everyday lives. Packaging is one tiny little component.
It is. Okay, here's what I got. In the US, aluminum production is predominantly sourced from recycling rather than primary production. As of 2021, come on, ChatGPT, aluminum accounted for approximately 78%. Recycled aluminum was 78% of the total domestic aluminum supply, while the rest is 22%. So that's encouraging, right?
Yeah, and just think of how much we don't recycle. Right? Like,
yeah, I mean, it's
how much aluminum is in your electronics that doesn't get recycled. How much aluminum is in, building components that aren't recycled. Like, it's a ton.
So my wife watched Inception last night with her friend, and it's been a while since I've seen it. But let's maybe take this one step down, right? Where if we're relying upon U.S. sourced recycling, post-consumer recycled products in general, right? Aluminum or whatever, and the cost of everything is going up from these tariffs, right? That means that labor prices are going up. That means that energy is going up. That means that gas could be going up. Fuel, all of this stuff, food begins to get more expensive. And so maybe there's not a 25% tariff on it, but what if it costs us 20% more to get recycled aluminum here in the US? And I mean, there's so many games to be played with this from an economic perspective that it's like I I don't blame the companies for already coming out right now and saying, "Hey, you saw the news, we're going to raise our prices." And I think we're just going to see that across the board. I really do. Um, and then there'll be some sort of price battle happening between Coke and the private brands and the Dr. Fizzes or whatever the private brands are. And they'll battle it out, and maybe Coke loses some market share, and then they got to come back and they got to drop their prices in order to because I don't know what that's going to happen within the market, but it's not surprising that these announcements are leading to these tariff announcements are leading to an immediate reaction with price increases.
Yeah, I had Jameson Perkins comment how the last time there was these tariffs, it pretty much destroyed the craft beer industry for a portion of time, right? Because they're not doing super high volume. They're doing low volume. They're doing labeled aluminum cans, and just a small impact on pricing puts them out.
Yeah.
We got Chris Olson saying lots of bauxite in Canada. That's the U.S. right now, right? So we do, according to Chris, we have a lot of bauxite in the U.S. Actually, not in Canada.
Yeah, so maybe there's a lot of available bauxite, but according to the internet source, there's not a lot of it. There's not a lot of it that is currently mined, which is not like you can just ramp up mining, like that.
Yeah, and a lot of these countries already have deals with other countries. It doesn't have to always be with the U.S. So there's they're selling it. They're committed to X percentage of what they're producing going to somewhere else, and the people that we're committed to, we're taxing. But a few different questions that came across was also like, all right, well, maybe this is an opportunity for us to innovate, right? So maybe these tariffs are an opportunity for us to innovate instead of moving it from aluminum to plastic. Can we get into glass? Now, why would we not move into glass?
I mean, for the reasons that we moved away from glass to aluminum and from glass to plastic,
Yeah.
glass is not the most friendly in recycling. um, it's very heavy to transport, so we don't have near the recycling rate with glass that we do with aluminum. Glass comes from sand, so it's quite disruptive to waterways, riverbeds, and the like. And so because of that, glass is pretty expensive. Now it does have it, obviously it has some sustainability benefits in that it is in fact recyclable, and there's not a lot of problems with it. The issue is it ends up being the economics, right? Like it's expensive to recycle glass. It's not as expensive to recycle aluminum.
Well, it's
And so
expensive to
therefore
make it.
it's expensive to make it.
It's
And it's
expensive to
preferred.
transport it.
Right. So I don't think that's a viable alternative to aluminum at a large scale.
Mhm.
I don't think so.
Yeah. I will say, I'd say about, of those almost 200 comments in there, half of them were these tariffs support American production by American, was the sentiment. And again, it kind of just goes back to there's nothing to buy if we can't produce it here. Even though we do have quite a bit of recycled material, if we're not able to bring the stuff in, that recycled material is not like earmarked for cans. That'll get pulled into automotive, aerospace, military, all the different areas that needs aluminum.
Mhm.
Your drinks are not a priority.
So I think the other thing that, and I'm not saying this is great, but it's at least a potential positive,
Mhm.
is that maybe we just stop buying so much. Like you had Liquid Death on there, for example.
Mhm.
I genuinely don't know why we continue to put water into aluminum cans. If aluminum is so necessary for all these other things, aluminum cans are not necessary for water. We don't need the barrier. We don't
Mhm.
need the I mean it's kind of done in the name of sustainability,
What do you mean we don't need the barrier for
Well,
water?
so because aluminum, like an aluminum can, is a very it has a great protective nature when it comes to
Mhm.
like the craft beer industry, carbonated beverages, sugary drinks. These kinds of things. Like just putting them into plastic is you can't put like beer, for example, into a plastic bottle. I don't think you can, at least.
Don't they
Um,
do plastic bottles at stadiums?
uh, they do.
You should know this because I don't do sports.
I know, but I
Most
don't
of
drink
you
much
know.
beer. We're the worst at this. Um, I I just the comment was made to me once, like, I just don't think we should be put, especially when aluminum was the prices were going up because the
Mhm.
MOQs were expanding out, and they were like, we should at least take water out of aluminum because it's totally unnecessary. Water can be in most anything, but maybe if we stop putting so much water, like single use water, out into the market,
Mhm.
maybe we would buy less of it. And just, I mean, everybody has a Stanley Cup, it feels like. We have, at least in the
If
US,
you
like,
don't, ask me. I've got, like my kids have, like, 30 of them.
I know
Yeah.
we have we have water readily available in the
Mhm.
United States to just fill up a cup and drink it. It always has struck me as kind of odd that we have this need for. Now I understand emergency supplies, like when the water was contaminated in Flint and we had to ship them a bunch of water. Like, I'm not saying we should never have it, but it's like we have boxed water, we have aluminum can water, we have glass water, we have plastic bottle, water. We have water probably in flexible pouches somewhere with like a spouted pouch. Just seems
We
like
just
we're just finding new
recently
mediums to put water into. It's like, and then Stanley is like having record sales because everyone's buying reusable water bottles. It's like,
yeah,
this
what do
is
we want?
it's a strange thing.
Yeah. Going back to plastic beer bottles, yes, plastic beer bottles do exist. They're there
Okay,
for, according to Rochester Institute of Technology,
great
um,
school, good packaging program.
absolutely. So they know. But yeah, so yeah, you can put it in there, but people don't like beer in plastic. It doesn't taste the same, doesn't feel the same. The weight's different. It kind of changes the entire experience. Um, but I don't know. Cans just feel, and just to me, right? Like, I think at this age, cans just feel normal. So if we move away from cans and put it in something else, uh, yeah, we can innovate, but you're probably not going to get the market share you're hoping for.
Yep.
Quick comment here from Laura Cameron. Convenience. What you are seeing as far as consumers choosing aluminum cans over plastic, or choosing to buy more expensive cans and a cheaper plastic bottle. I think I see more talk than sacrificing the dollar, just like playing for cheaper and convenience over real ingredients. Even the Instagram, TikTok show they choose better. Yeah, people don't. People don't really sacrifice that dollar, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't.
So, all
Is
right.
so I guess to that point then, is it really gonna matter, or are the tariffs gonna win? Like, are people just gonna keep paying the extra, dollar for whatever their six pack or 12 pack or whatever it is? Um, Probably, right? Like, they're probably just gonna pay it. I'm gonna guess. I mean, I don't know how else to. If that's the case, if people are really like, I love aluminum cans and I'm gonna buy aluminum cans, um, then you're not gonna have any market pressure pushback on the tariffs, and then they'll just end up being absorbed into the cost, right?
Yeah, but I would. Here's the thing: is someone did comment, just trust the process, and that's the other thing too. Is like I hope there's a process here, and a lot of these tariffs that are being announced are not being implemented. They're threats, then they're being postponed for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, and countries are coming back with like better deals, right? So that might be it as well. That we could be getting a better deal on aluminum end of March, and helps bring prices down. Right? Like that could be it as well. And where people are panicking, we've got local brewers talking about, this is going to shake things up. It's going to put us out of business. Just the overall ripple effect across steel and aluminum on air conditioning, and like just all the different things that we count on for aluminum, we might just be freaking out for nothing.
Okay.
But I think you
But
also have to plan for what if and make some good decisions here.
you and I have been in the packaging industry for a while.
6 months.
What's 6 months? Yeah. We've been in it long enough to look on ChatGPT for answers. Um, I cannot tell you how many times there have been price increases
Oh,
across the board, right? Price increase. Like I could probably count on one hand the amount of time it's been like, hey, there's an industry price decrease. Now, obviously, the markets fluctuate, right? Like if you're regulated by a market, that's going to fluctuate up and down. But in terms of the stuff that, like, if the stuff that we make
mhm.
that is a customized process, whether it's bags or board stock or aluminum cans or corrugated or labels or shrink sleeves, um, whatever it might be, though those industries tend to just have price increases, and once there's an increase that's been accepted,
Mhm. It never goes back down.
it's not going to go back. Even if the tariffs go away, they're going to hold on to that, and they're going to hold on to that margin because it allows them to absorb future increases to whatever the other inputs are. And there's hundreds of different inputs that go into
Yep.
these things. It's not, I'm not saying like, oh, a bunch of greedy corporations. I'm just saying
No,
like
yeah, 100%.
if they can
You
be if they can be reached, they're not coming back down. And so the tariff is going to allow the aluminum can companies to raise prices.
mhm.
And if the tariff sort of like goes away or it's not as big a deal, I don't see those can prices coming down unless somebody decides like we're gonna start dropping some of these prices, and then the market will
Mhm.
bring it back down.
Yeah. No, from a manufacturing standpoint, I mean, this is one of the things that we've done in the past, right? Where there might be an industry-wide increase on paper, for example, and it's not something that we're going to pass on to our customers. Like there's a certain threshold where we're like, okay, we can absorb this
Hmm.
to keep these customers at the current price point for the next 12, 18 months or so, right? And these things happen. You're like, all right, well, we can adjust these things. And it's, these are things that are eating into your margin, but then on the back end, you're also able to work with paper companies or material companies and be like, hey, this is what we're doing, and kind of splitting those differences and um, being a good provider, right? And then when something like this happens, yeah, and it does go away, then it allows you at least to kind of make up some of that stuff that you lost in the past in terms of being a good provider. But
Yep.
do you, yeah, do you back off on price? Yeah, you're right. I don't see a lot of people doing that. Just a couple quick comments here. Hugh Curtis, Stadium beers tend to either be in draft in the plastic cup or those aluminum bottles, or even those aluminum cups. We might see
Yep.
those aluminum cups go away.
I don't know if those aluminum cups are going to go away, especially not in the
I
where
guess
where the
stadium.
2023 NBA World Champion Denver Nuggets play, which is Ball Arena. So I'm going to guess that they're going to keep the aluminum cups there.
But you're already paying like $20 for a cup, so I guess that doesn't really matter.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you can absorb that. Laura Cameron saying, right, just like the cost of grocery through COVID. Yeah, they increased and they haven't gone back down. Hugh coming in, best example I've seen recently of the reusable aluminum cups from Ball Corp. I posted about these last summer. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Can you back off on price? Only the majors can do that, I think.
Yeah, they can. I mean, listen, it's hard to say like definitively this is a terrible idea to have these tariffs on aluminum or any sort of I mean, we do have some like steel
Mhm.
packaging. There are metals that we use in packaging, tin and the like. I lean towards like I don't think I think it's essentially just a tax on America. It's just another tax that we have to pay in the form of a tariff, right? It's not like, the countries are writing us checks. It's not like, oh, we
Right.
brought in $5 billion worth of aluminum from Australia, and now Australia has to write us a check through the IRS. Like they don't have a turbo tax for tariffs.
Yeah.
Um, and so the companies end up sort of bearing this, and then it goes into their cost of goods sold, and then they've got to figure out like, hey, what can we do here? It's a weird economic lever to pull, and it won't surprise me if we end up feeling it here in the US, especially when it's across the board and wide sweeping and impacts so many things. One-offs because of negotiating or whatever it is that you were trying to do,
Mhm.
I guess that makes sense, but to just be like everything It's like everything that we're going to import is going to have a tariff. It feels kind of silly.
Yeah, but we'll see how that shakes out, right? We'll trust this process a little bit for a little while longer.
Trust but verify. That's what I say. Trust but verify.
Verify with ChatGPT.
Yes, exactly.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for joining us. Keep a lookout for what's happening in tariffs and packaging. Join us tomorrow and the rest of the week, every day here on LinkedIn, YouTube Live, or catch the show afterwards. Keep commenting. Laura, Hugh, appreciate it. Chris, as always. Andrew, thanks so much for joining us and commenting. We'll see you guys soon. Thank you so much.